It is another incredible day here at KQCK radio station, and I am so glad to have Nancy Fleming from Money and Motivation back in town with us today. Welcome, Nancy.
And good afternoon, and thank you for playing one of my favorite songs right before we start. I really like dancing to that song.
I can tell you're a karaoke person now, because that's one of the most favorite karaoke songs I think people sing.
Dance,
not
sing.
Such a good song.
Dance, not sing.
Gotcha. You gotta have the dance. Gotta have the dancers too. Just a shower singer, closet singer, right?
But yeah, West Coast swing for all you West Coast swing lovers out there. Anyway, today we have a wonderful, wonderful guest. We have Jessica. Pronounce your last name.
Galindo.
Galindo. I just knew I was.
And highly anticipated, I might say, because since I have mentioned that you were coming on, since Nancy told me, I've had people calling, does she, with every question, like, does she clean offices? Does she come and when they hear office organizer, people think that you go in and actually clean their office. Like, I thought that. I'm like, yeah, maybe I can, get her to come on and check my office out, keep her here a while, and have her clean it up. But
do you clean offices?
It is part of the process. I mean, whenever you're talking about getting organized, part of it is like, where do you file your stuff? Where do you put how do you handle that?
So piles of papers that are in some people's offices.
I know there's a lot of anxious hoarders out there that want to hear.
I call them my shoebox clients.
There
the
you
ones
go.
That show up with shoe boxes. Is like, yep, I can take care of that.
Well, that's good to know. I came back from being out of town and did have a pile here that I didn't notice before I left and thought, what is in that pile? I was tempted to just throw it away and not look at it, but didn't quite go there. But you had a very young start, didn't you?
I did. Actually, growing up, my parents were both school teachers, and so my dad had a side job as a flight instructor. And one of the cool things about it was my mom would shoo me over there to babysit me. And the next thing I know, I'm in there answering the phones and, helping do some of his filing. And so I got to see at a very young age what it was like to own your own business, and really you're putting your heart and soul into it. And I have such a soft spot for those business owners who are really just trying to make their dream into a profitable business.
Well, now the big question, did you get to go up in the airplane?
I did. We were quite spoiled. I know. I was the kind that would fall asleep by the time we got off the runways. But we were quite spoiled by that and didn't realize what a road trip was until I was an adult.
Oh, what a great thing. I have a son-in-law that loves flying. I have friends who love to fly. That is wonderful. But back in, so your dad had you in the office early because he had his own business as a flight instructor. Mm-hmm. I know I had my daughter. My kids worked with me also when they were young. And I had my daughter in filing, and as soon as she knew the alphabet.
And it's good and it's bad. It was one of those where he would fire me every day and I would show up the next day. And so it was great. It's like, I would mess up something and he would like, no, that's not how you do it. But I learned the importance of it. So
that's great. So, and starting at such a young age, I think it becomes a part of your nature because it was what you grew up with. Mm-hmm. I find that people who start really young are just better at just about anything they start when they're really young.
One of the key things that I bring forward to being my own business owner now is that I got to see the dynamic. My mom loved being a school teacher. My dad didn't, which is why he had the flight school as a side job. And I just saw my mom would get up every day and, yay, I'm going to go teach those kids something great. And my dad would be like, okay, we have 365 days in the year. We have 200 left in the school year. He hated it. And I could just see the dynamics of what it was like to hate your job. I was like, I'm never going to have a job that I hate. And I really want that for those people who strike out into their own business. They do it because they love it. And I really want to help them grow that.
Well, and they're huge risk takers. I mean, you're putting you're putting everything on the line because you have to put money into your business. You don't get to punch a time clock and have somebody give you a salary. You show up at your business and have to take care of the business and then figure out how you're going to get cash flow each
and
day.
It never ends. It's not like you leave at 5 o'clock and you go home and you don't think about it. I mean, you think about it 24/7. It's like, oh, that one client, I forgot to call them back. I need to make sure I do that. I mean, so they never walk away. Any business owner never walks away from it. It's 24/7.
Let me jump in really quick here. I think I messed you up in the beginning when I was so excited to mention that.
I'm glad she's here.
So we didn't introduce our guest today. We've got
didn't.
some folks up there saying, what's it going to be about tonight? And who's our guest?
All right. So tell us about your business.
My name is Jessica Galindo, and I own Personal Consultants. I am a bookkeeping and business organizer. I have a unique approach where I blend. It's not just about having good bookkeeping and plugging the numbers into QuickBooks so that you can kick it off to your CPA at the end of the year, but it's also about being organized so you can better service your customers and your clients. Okay.
Just don't talk quite so fast. Nobody can keep up. So just slow down a little bit here. So we're going to review that. So you do bookkeeping for people. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So someone comes to you and says, I can't do this anymore. Here, and throws the books at you, literally, you're going to be able to take that over and get that figured out. Now, does bookkeeping include handling the payroll every month, and does it include filing the taxes every month?
It depends on the client, but yeah, I can handle all of that. I also work with other CPAs. That depends on the industry. There's some industries that I don't have experience with, and I'm not gonna say that I can handle them 100%. But I do have lots of references to get them to the right person.
Well, nobody can do everything.
Nope,
right?
and I know where my weaknesses are.
And that's the important thing, is focus on where you've got your strengths. So we are going to talk tonight about business organization and what it's like to have, from her perspective, what a good business looks like that is organized from a variety of different angles, and why we would do a little bit of business coaching if necessary. So yeah, hopefully we'll all get some good tips. Even if we don't own a business, there's still good organizational tips. We all have to do some bookkeeping, balancing our checkbooks, and making sure we have all our paperwork ready when tax season comes, and so forth.
This probably goes tiers all the way down to just, grocery shopping and coupons and price matching, and this office organizing kind of goes across your whole life, doesn't it?
Yes, your office is everything from your kitchen table that you do your own personal book, your own bill paying, your own tax planning, your own estate planning. Like it crosses the gamut, and that's what's so great. It's like you don't have to have a business to put these.
No, everybody's own life is really their own business. And right now is a timely time to talk about it, because September 15th is right around the corner. Yep. All the corporations that are out there have to have their corporate filings done if they put in their extensions, and the personal deadline is in October for those who've done their extension. It's a really good time to be talking about this. But I also, when you mention your estate planning, I just had a story come up today that a true story. It's like you and I both are talking to people. I kind of wanted to share that to reinforce the importance of keeping track of your stuff, because in the financial sense, because so many times we just forget. And doing taxes is a great time to help remember, whenever time of the month we sit down and work on our bookkeeping or our budgeting, whether it's for a business or ourselves, we stop to think. But I was talking to a lady, and this very sad story. Her husband died a couple of years ago, and we were just chatting about things, and she said, well, it would be better if he would have had life insurance. And I said, oh, that's a kind of a common thing. People have life insurance to take care of their family. And this is the sad part. They had life insurance. They had term insurance, and they had paid on it many, many years. Now, the problem came up because he got sick right before his 65th birthday. Now, for anybody out there, do make it a point not to be in the hospital when you turn 65. Anytime I have known people who turn 65 in the hospital, it's never good.
Oh, no.
Never good.
And I'm superstitious. I'm scared now.
No, you make the switch from your own insurance to your Medicare, and if the hospitals aren't sure who they're billing, I've just had some really, I know people personally where we just had some really bad things happen. At any rate, his term insurance expired at age 65. And so they didn't change over. They didn't change from the term insurance over to a different type of policy, whether it was a second term policy or whatever. They didn't take care of it. Why is that? Well, because we don't think we're going to die, right? And it's so easy to procrastinate it. And I've been guilty of procrastinating myself. I mentioned a couple of times, it took me a while, 2-3 years to make a change of beneficiary on one of my accounts, and it was really hanging over my head because I'm in a line of work where I see a lot of bad things happen. So she was saying that because he got sick and because he was in the hospital when he turned 65, they hadn't done anything with his term insurance. So his policy ended right when he turned 65, and he died about a week after he turned 65. So all the years they'd paid into this term policy were gone because it was the type of policy set up to do that. Now, whether she knew that or not, I'm not sure, but what it does mean is we really need to understand what we have, and we do need to understand the what do I want to say, the consequences of what we have and whether it's a good or a bad thing.
Right.
Now tell me, do you see some of this in other areas when you work with people?
Again, it goes back to what you were mentioning. It really does span the gamut. I mean, I see it with, housewives whose husbands pass away and they don't know how to pay the mortgage because their husband took care of all of it. And it's like, well, I don't even know where to find where that information is. And so it goes back to being organized and finding a system that works for you. The same thing with your business. A lot of small business owners, they are the cook, the chef, the bottle washer, they do it all. But what happens if that person can't make it to work? What happens if that person passes away? Can somebody step in and continue that business is really key.
It is key, and there's two sides to that, because there's the one side of the person who's in charge of things, whether it's the husband or the wife, who's in charge of things and making sure all the bills get paid and making sure, and if it's a business owner, who the business owner is. And often they'll do their thing. But I also will see it to where the person in charge of things, the business or the personal bill paying, tries to share it with the spouse and the spouse refuses. So we want both sides to do their part. We want the person in charge of everything to be willing to include their partner, and we want the partner also to be willing to learn it.
Right.
Because I can't tell you the number of times you've experienced or I've experienced where something's happened to the one in charge, death or disability or just plain sickness, and the other person will say, I don't even know what to do.
And another interesting twist on that is like a lot of them will have an assistant in the office who does take care of the bills. It's like, well, that's okay. She knows how to handle this. She takes care of that for me. Well, you also need someone to go back and check her because, well, who's to say that she's handling it the right way? Who's to say that she's making the payments on time? Who's to say that, she's not mishandling the funds? So you really need to be actively involved in knowing what is exactly going on and double checking that system.
If I can jump in here, we've got a question from one of our listeners out there on the chat. Can you be hired to organize Dawn's life or business, and can you give an approximate idea of what your rates are like?
That's a hard one. Gosh, I wish I just had a cookie cutter answer for that because it really depends. I mean, I could walk in and you could be, walls stacked to the ceiling with paperwork. Well, you can guess that's not going to be a cheap job. I really try to keep it low. I mean, my rates are pretty affordable. And I'm honestly, my heart and my weak spot is for those business owners, and I just want to see them succeed. So my best suggestion is to email me. I'd be more than happy to come out and do a consultation for free.
What's your email address?
It's let's start over. It's personalconsultants@q.com. That's personal consultants with an S at q.com.
And they can request a free consultation. You can come out and, in a sense, give like a free estimate, for lack of a better word. So what are some of the businesses that you have had success in helping?
Some of my favorite ones are, I had a chemical distributor who, he was out on the road all the time. And so he was literally gone from 6 o'clock in the morning to 9, 10 o'clock at night. And he would try to stay up at night trying to do his invoicing, which is the worst time to do it because you're tired. And so he was like, invoicing wasn't getting done on time. And then he was losing track of things. So we actually, from the organization side, we converted everything electronically. So all his manuals for all those different parts, if something broke, he didn't have to go back home to look it up or to his home office. We did everything and scanned it and put it on the cloud, and he could look it up from his smartphone.
Oh, that's great. That saved him a lot of time.
Absolutely.
The biggest thing I have found with my smartphone is that I don't get behind on emails anymore, because there's a lot of times where you're just sitting around, you have a few minutes here and a few minutes there, and that has really freed me up, not to have to wait till I get back to the office to look at my emails.
With the service industries, QuickBooks has been so great about coming out with other ways of doing things. Like you can even do your invoicing for my landscapers. They haven't even left yet, and they've invoiced that client. Or before they even show up, they go, "Oh, Mrs. Smith, you haven't paid us in the last 2 months. I'm sorry, I can't take care of you today."
Okay, so you said landscapers. So landscape businesses are where you've had some success in helping them.
Yes.
All right.
And I have landscapers. I have real estate agents. I have their pool people. There's Leah Sophia representatives and other jewelry representatives and Mary Kay representatives. I mean, just all walks. I've worked with doctors' offices and attorneys, and just from all different gamuts. My best success stories are the ones that I am partially respond to are just the mom and pop businesses who are just really just trying to figure out how to do it all in a day.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those in Arizona, sure. There's a lot of them. So let's go back to this question to help them out. You'd come out and you're saying, yes, I could help with whatever it is. And, frankly, if you're not, that's what the free visit and the consultation and the estimate is all about, is to see if it's something that you feel would be mutually beneficial, they can benefit, and you can help them.
Right, because everybody's different. I love technology, but you know what? I still have a paper calendar. I still have a day timer. You may like paper files where other people want it all electronically, and some people like it in their face with Post-it notes. Other people want a desk that's absolutely pristine with nothing on it. It really is. It takes a little bit of psychology to it. It's like, what is it about you? What works best for you? Do you function well in a cluttered environment? Okay, well, that's fine. I'm not saying you can't be cluttered. Some people, that's what keeps their creative juices flowing, but let's do it in such a way that you can still manage what you have.
I like your Post-it notes. In my office, there's a company, and he keeps track of everything with this big, calendar almost on his wall with Post-it notes, and different colored, and it looks totally cool. I don't know that I could ever do it, and it's really brilliant. But other people, I can see, it would drive them crazy to have that up there. But it works well, yes.
I think you may have answered it, but we can recap. Francisco from Phoenix, his question. He bought a neat desk organizer, but has never even opened it. Wants to be organized really bad, but he has come to the conclusion he needs some kind of training and someone to guide him. Is this a textbook customer that would need you?
It's so great you should mention that. I love my neat desk organizer. I could sell them by the dozen because I think they're the coolest thing ever. But where people get tripped up is they
describe it for those who don't know what it is.
Oh, it's the coolest machine ever. I think it's the best thing since
I actually
bread.
have one of those myself.
Oh, okay. So
it's not just a scanner. So you can put receipts, you can put business cards in there, you can put any size document. And not only does it scan it, which it does super fast, front and back, color, everything, and it does it in PDF, but it has the software is the key. The software helps you organize it in such a fashion, and it makes your PDF documents searchable. It really if you have a system, and again, it goes back to you just can't scan things and not do anything with it.
Or they just all end up in your inbox unfiled.
Right. You have to have a system. So I can go in there and put in 100 receipts, but if I don't label those receipts, they're pointless. Yeah, I have a copy of them, but it'll take me 6 days to find the one that I want. So so to answer his question, you have to have a system. So if you're not sure how to set up a system, absolutely, I can help you with that. But also another thing that I ran into is the Neat Desk Scanner will actually has it will import directly into QuickBooks. Export into QuickBooks. It'll export into Excel. So if you're trying to use this as a way to manage your finances, it's a great way to assist that. But it isn't the be-all, end-all. I had a couple of clients who were like, I bought the Neat Desk Scanner. That's all I need, right? Well, no, because it's not tracking your cash purchases. There's a lot of things.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not the be-all, end-all. It's a great start, but it's not. You got to have more to it than just that.
So the answer is yes, you could help someone get that set up.
Absolutely.
Because I think whenever a person buys something new, it's, it just is a matter of having somebody else who's done it before rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. Unless you love just sitting and reading manuals, but a lot of people who buy that because they're so short on time and they need to be organized, so to sit down and read through it is like, oh, gosh, I know this will help me, but right now it's one more thing I have to do.
Right.
And it always says on the box, easy setup in 5 minutes. Come on.
You can set it up in 5 minutes, but it won't organize it so you can find it in 5 minutes. Yeah.
I thought when I bought mine, I'd be all organized, but I think I need to hire you myself.
But do you like it so far?
I like it, but they just did a software upgrade to 5.1, and after I merged everything, I can't find anything now, so it's really... I'm going to have to...
Yeah, you're going to have to...
I'm going to have to hire her, for sure.
Right.
And that's one of the things, is one of the part of that I promote is don't leave it in the NeatWorks. Take it out of that and create your own filing system. Don't depend on them, because when you do have upgrades, it does totally mess it up.
Well, it's kind of nice to know, though, that, Joe, you've worked with it and what a couple of the issues are and that you know the answers. That's got to really be encouraging for people out there.
And Jessica, your husband out there said... she's so organized, she'd rather go to Staples than on a shopping spree for clothes.
That is so true.
That's awesome.
I am.
That is.
I like get so excited when I get the Staples like flyer. It's like, oh look, Post-it notes are on sale! Yay!
Thank you, Jose, for that comment.
Yes, yes. Well, now we know that you're in the right field.
That's
Definitely
right.
the right field. So you're helping there, but how would a business then know? So let's suppose you're going to help someone, either some of the callers or someone like the callers or Joe or whomever, and you go, how then would a business know when they actually need a bookkeeper rather than doing it themselves? Because there's so much out there now to help a person keep track of things.
My personal opinion on that, and that's just my own, I think any business needs to hire a bookkeeper, whether you have them come out quarterly and just double check you, or whether or not you can afford to have them come out monthly, or even once halfway through the year, and again at the end of the year before you send it to your CPA. It's just for no other reason. Is most business owners don't know the ins and outs of like where's the right way to apply that. Should this meal that I paid for, is it really meals and entertainment, or is it recruiting, or is it? I mean, so where's the right place to do it? And those are things that bookkeepers and accountants are trained to ask the right questions.
So is something coming out to a business owner every quarter, every 6 months? Is that too small for your business?
No. I have some clients that most of them I try to touch on at least once a month. And it's like, hey, how's it going? Let's get your stuff and look at it. I prefer that because well, I'll get in that in a minute.
Well, do you physically have to go then to their place of business, or you can access it remotely?
No, thank God for technology, because that's one of my favorite things. I love technology, so I have them scan it or fax it to me. It goes up on a cloud. I can, with remote accessing and cloud services, and log me in and all those different ways of doing things. They don't have to take time out of their busy day to get to me. And I can work on their schedule, whatever works best, and they can still have the tools that they need to really grow their business, and that's the important part.
So they're going to be sending you just that page from QuickBooks or whatever they're using?
A lot of times they just give me a copy of your bank statements, a copy of your whatever cash receipts, and I help them get that organized. Keep your cash receipts separate so that I can know what to do with those. And they send, or whatever receipts they send to me, and then I go on into their QuickBooks and get that organized, and then I sit down and have a conversation with them and go, do you know how much you spend at Starbucks each month? We may need to look at that.
That's a good idea. So actually you end up earning your keep because you're pointing out where they're spending money.
Oh, absolutely.
So just to summarize, they're going to send you their bank statement and all their cash receipts. You're going to get it organized and then give them feedback on making sure that they're taking care of their money properly.
Right.
Or
Absolutely.
I should say in a manner that's going to be according to what they're wanting to accomplish.
Right.
Because for somebody going to Starbucks might be a good thing, and for somebody else it'd be a really bad thing.
Right, and it's not for me to judge. I'm not
Exactly.
judging them.
You're just giving information so
Right.
they can make an informed decision.
And part of it too, in that initial process when I'm talking with them, is like find out what their goals are. What's your dream with this business? Are you just doing it because you can make an extra 50,000 a year, or is this something that you're really passionate about? And where do you want it to go? And then it's like, okay, let's see where we can go to get that. And I tell my clients, ideally, I'm going to work with you about a year. And in that year, I'm going to train you on what I'm doing as I'm doing it. And either you're going to outgrow me, ideally, which is what I want, and your business is going to be large enough that you're going to need to hire a full-time bookkeeper on staff, and I can't handle that. Or you're going to be managing it on your own, and you've got this down pat.
So you really don't have you really want to help the business owner whenever possible, in a sense, emancipate.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
want them to
fascinating.
know.
Fascinating. Okay, we have a question.
Murray and Sue, Gold Canyon, which is a great question since you were talking about, people sending you receipts and all that. Do you do people's bookkeeping as well as take care of their organizational issues?
Yep. I believe I have a very unique approach to it, because I believe you have to have balance there. And the way that I explain it to people who are like, I don't get this whole bookkeeping stuff. Why do I need it? Well, I look at their business like a car. It's their investment. And bookkeeping are the gauges on the car. It tells you how you're doing. Are you leaking oil? Are you spending money like crazy? Are you really making the most out of that investment? Now, if I start ignoring those gauges and I start ignoring the bookkeeping, well, chances are it's going to break down somehow. So that's where bookkeeping comes in. Now, to take the analogy a little bit further, if I'm in that car and I'm going down the highway at 60 miles an hour and I suddenly forget where the brake is, you wouldn't be a bit surprised to hear that I just wrecked my car and I have all this trouble and hassle and loss of a lot of money. Well, that's where the organization side comes in. If I have customers that are calling me saying, I need to know where that receipt is, I've lost it, and I need to take care of this, and it takes me 6 weeks to respond to that email, then I've lost customers, but I've also lost my reputation, which is so hard to build as a small business owner.
Yeah, sometimes that's all we have is our reputation. And so so we've got this blend of the bookkeeping, the business organization that's going to go together,
Right.
Kind of like the car, going fast in the car and without the proper equipment or without knowing, you can burn up your engine if your oil gauge quits working or something like that. So that's a really good. I'm actually going to think about that a little. How's that work? So I mean, this is really interesting. So was there another one, Joe? Don't forget it.
Yeah, we're taking it a step further here now. John from Mesa, John Cisco says, well, since you do all that in bookkeeping too, can we use you to do our taxes as well?
No, I'm not a licensed CPA. However, I do work with some very great CPAs.
And that was his next question.
Yep, I work with some very great CPAs. Wayne Bradford, if I can give them a plug, Wayne Bradford
Absolutely.
CPA in Tempe. I work closely with them, and I think that's another key thing. If you're looking at hiring a bookkeeper, that's one of the questions you need to ask. A lot of people don't know this, but bookkeepers don't have to have a special degree. Accountants do. Bookkeepers do not. Technically, we're just glorified data entry people. I mean, if you think about it, that's what we do. We take what you have and we plug it into a software program. But I work closely with Wayne Bradford CPA firm, and I check in with them going, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is the client. This is what's going on with them. Is this the best course of action? Because at the end of the year, it is all going to them anyway.
Right. Well, as I was saying, everything you're doing all year long is going to end up in front of a CPA. And so, in a sense, your work gets checked.
Absolutely.
By that, by the superiors, even though it may, whatever CPA firm that your clients are using.
Right. And I think it's key because in the end, if they're not using a bookkeeper, who ends up doing it for them? The CPA at the end of the year. And they may not have the time because they're at the end of the tax season and they're rushing, depending on who their CPA is. I mean, the good ones out there will take the time to ask the questions that need to be asked. But I mean, if they get down to the tax deadline, they got to get it out there. If you have a bookkeeper all along that's working closely with your CPA, there is no last minute crunch. There's not this big worry about, oh my God, how much am I going to pay in taxes?
Well, not just that. And I'm sure like right now there are people who have filed extensions who are saying, yeah, I should have done this sooner, and who are scrambling to gather all their information or maybe think they have it all together, and then the accountant has said, what about?
Right.
And, oh, I saw this. What about? So the advantage of the bookkeeper might even be saving the small business owner 2 or 3 days or partial days of getting all that together and then trying to translate that into a dollar amount.
It's really peace of mind. It all boils down to peace of mind. It's what bookkeepers offer. They offer them peace of mind knowing that when you go to the CPA, it's been checked, you know ahead of time where it's at. If the CPA questions like, okay, really, you spent X amount in meals and entertainment, okay, can you validate that? Yeah, absolutely, here it all is. And that's what bookkeepers provide. It's just nothing but peace of mind.
Well, I think probably accurate information's a good one too.
Right, and absolutely.
Yeah, and because I'm thinking if someone's sending cash receipts, you want the credit card statements too?
Oh, absolutely.
So you're looking for cash receipts, credit card statements, and bank statements, and pulling all that together so that every month that's being kept track of. So the business owner will then says, okay, this is what you spend. Is this how you want to spend the money?
Right.
And then we also, with business owners, you're wanting to look at the return on investment. So if they're doing advertising or if they're doing meals or whatever they're doing, this is what you spent. Now, how much did you bring in on this? So you can look at the expenses compared to the income, and is there a profit, and is it a good thing to be doing?
Right.
So I can see where that would be helpful also. And then just not having to take the time to put all that together. I mean, it sure is a lot easier just to send somebody all those statements than it is to throw them in the shoebox or whatever people tend to do, or in their file. Regardless of how they file it, you still have to pull it together. And somebody has to pull it together.
I have an interesting story about the shoe boxes. I have a client that's a handyman, and I see him every so often, and I go out there and I follow him out to a truck with a big envelope, and I'm like, unload it. And in his center console, every time he opens it up, it's like a surprise. It just jumps out with all these receipts, and he just dumps them all in and puts them in my envelope. I take it over to my Neat Desk scanner and scan it all, and then I take it from there. But I mean, that's the reality of being a business owner.
Yeah, because you're busy. You're doing what you love to do.
Right.
And so it's not uncommon for some of this other stuff. There's been books written everywhere about it. You've got this thing you love to do, and then there's this business that's this beast that you have to take care of that you feel like isn't helping. You're not doing what you like to do over here, whether it's the pool guy or whether it's you have to keep happily. You can hire yourself maybe, but maybe you hire somebody else because it's like the painter who doesn't paint his own house.
Right.
But
I hate to admit that's the case.
Yeah, for a lot of us that's the case. That's not uncommon.
Right.
So
Our little bell has gone off. Betty Lou from Anthem has an interesting question here. She says, my mother's house is really bad, and she's stressed really bad, and she's elderly. How many days per week, if we hire you, do you work at the same person's house to get them organized? We're very interested in your services.
Okay, so there's a difference between being an organizer and handling hoarding situations or something to that effect. If it's truly a hoarding situation where people are they have some psychological issues where they don't want to get rid of things, that's not something I'm equipped to handle. Let's just be straight there and go ahead and put that out there. But as far as if they're just, there's papers everywhere, we don't know what's important or if we need to keep these, I'd be more than happy to work with them. As far as the schedule, you know what? We just have to first come, first serve. I look at my calendar, pull out my day timer, and see what I can do. And she's more than welcome to email me or give me a call, and I'll be happy to see how quickly I can squeeze her in.
Right on.
Well, and that's a really important thing. I know I have certain clients that aren't comfortable knowing what they should keep or what they shouldn't keep, and so I have some where we're part of what I do for them, just because they want me to, is we'll go through all of their files and they'll just have a stack. Okay, what do I keep? What do I throw away? Because a lot of people just really aren't sure.
Right.
And that maybe, my guess would be that's maybe what they're referencing. And so they get with mom and there's this big file that's got all this stuff and people don't know.
It's funny. I my personal files, because as a bookkeeper, I tend to hang on to paper until I got my neat desk scanner and I fixed all that. But
that's right.
I actually had my very first tax return from when I was working at Taco Bell when I graduated from high school. I had my very first tax return and I was like, okay, do I actually have to have the paper copy of this? And it's a struggle. It's like, well, what if something comes up? What if I need that? Do I have to have the paper copy? A lot of people don't know that the IRS will allow you to have scanned copies or facsimile copies available. You don't have to have the original documents anymore, especially with receipts. Nowadays, they're made on that thermal paper and they fade, and you can't read them. Mm-hmm. So why are you hanging on to them? You can't read them in 6 months anyway. So that's what's great about having a scanning system and a great filing system to scan them and then shred them, toss them, be rid of them, have a bonfire, enjoy the moment and have a nice evening with it, but don't hang on to it. And it goes back to what the business feng shui of it is, the more stressed you are because you have all these files that you can't manage, that's affecting how you do your business, whether you realize it or not. It comes across to your clients that way.
Oh, I think so. I think if you've got files with all these receipts in them and you've got files with just all this paper, I think it does affect it because it's kind of around you.
Right.
And so, you're right. The environment is a really important thing. So what's one of your favorite success stories?
Oh, my favorite ones. There's so many. The favorite one is the one that I shared with the technology, because that was the first time we really blended service industry with being able to access the information anywhere. Having a tablet, I helped him go out and scout out the best tablet for him, and using Dropbox, which you can get for free, which I love doing that. It's like,
now explain Dropbox to everybody.
Dropbox is a free software that you can put electronic files in. And what's great about it is I can give you access to my files. So as the bookkeeper, that goes back to, how do I get that bank statement to you? Well, you just scan it and put it in that Dropbox and it shows up on my system and I can pull it off of there. So now you're not trying to figure out how to get it to me. So you don't have to take time out of your day to either go to the post office and mail it or actually hand deliver it.
I love Dropbox.
Oh, it's the best. And it's free.
It
which is my best.
And every time you refer someone, you get some extra space.
Oh, yeah. 109 megabytes. Woohoo.
Nice.
But, it's really great. And what we did with this client is we created this Dropbox folder so that his other employees, those manuals that he had, not only did he have them, but every one of his employees had them. So as we were scanning those service manuals, they had access to it. And if they have their service reports, as they were doing them, they were on the tablet, so they just filled it out electronically and it emailed before they left the client's office. They had everything. I love trying to figure out, what blend of technology can we do, but it doesn't have to be expensive. What's the least expensive, most effective way to make it happen? The same thing happens with the landscaper that I was mentioning before. He's another one of my favorite stories. He's able to go and show up at the door and go, Mrs. Smith, I see we haven't taken care of your bill. Can we do that now? Great, fantastic. So he's servicing the client, and she's not wondering, why the heck didn't he trim my bushes this month? Like, I don't understand what's going on with that. And so he knows every moment from location to location how he's doing. And it doesn't take an office staff of 10 to do that, or an office staff of 1. It just takes good software and knowing how to use it, and someone to explain it to him if he doesn't have the time.
So another way that people would be able to save on their overhead would be by being taught by you. They might not need as much staff support.
Oh, right.
And
Absolutely.
so once you've taken your 6 months or year, depending upon where a person is when they start, it's like using your landscape example, he might have in the past had to hire someone to actually sit in the office and do all of that. But after being trained by you, he just has the technology now and the knowledge and the correct software to use, so he doesn't have to have that employee. Not that he wouldn't have employees, but that particular job description doesn't have to be fulfilled by an employee. So there's a huge cost savings there.
Right. Another example of that is having a telephone line. A lot of my small business owners, one of the things they think they need is like, well, I have to have a landline. So they get this number and they splash it all over their trucks or their business cards and their advertising, but they're not there to answer the phone. So then it was like, well, have you heard of Google Voice? Google Voice is another free service that you can use. That you can forward a number to any number. And so with a little bit of coaxing, you can get your local phone company to port that number to Google Voice, and it'll track you wherever you are. So if you are sitting at your desk, fantastic, you can answer that phone. But if you're out making a service call, you don't miss that call. If you do miss the call, the other great thing about Google Voice is, guess what? You get a text message of the transcript of that voicemail.
Although you may not understand it.
It does take a little finesse, but
you'll kind of get the gist.
Right, and you'll get the phone number too. And so Google Voice will show up with the phone number, and you'll kind of get an idea of what it's about. But at least you won't miss the call. It won't be something that's sitting there until you get home that night.
Are you merging into this dragon speech thing?
You know, I have it on my iPhone, and I kind of keep playing with it. I actually had Dragon when it first came out and tried to train it for 8 days and couldn't get it to work. So I guess I'm a little tainted with it.
I just read a thing. They just came out with 11, I guess, in the last week, and it's supposed to be unbelievable.
And it's something to go back and mirror. I mean, I know myself, one of the things that I do is some days I like to take the bus into my CPA office when I go visit him, and so I have like an hour and a half on the bus. And so that's my time to answer my emails and check my calendar and schedule my appointments, and it just gives me my time to do my office work. That way when I get there, I can be productive. I am not taking another hour chatting with people and getting coffee. When I walk in the door, I'm ready to work. But it would be great when I'm driving. It's like, okay,
right.
you're not supposed to text and drive. Okay, great. But if I had Dragon Voice or some of those other ones, I can make those notes to myself. Hey, Jessica, remember to take care of this when you get home or when you get to the office. So that's something I'm considering.
I'm just afraid I'd forget how to type. By the way, I almost forgot. Cindy from Tucson wants to know, do you work with Peachtree accounting software?
No, I am sorry. Peachtree, boo hiss. Peachtree is antiquated. It's not, personally, this is my personal opinion. For those of you who are out there using it, I wish you the best of luck. I don't like it, and I will not operate with it.
Why do you not like it first, and what do you feel is more efficient?
To me, for small business owners, it's just too cumbersome, and it's too...
In what way? Because the people using it don't know this, so we want to make sure they...
It's my personal favorite is QuickBooks. Everything, they have a dashboard there that shows you the flow of when you get money in, this is how you process that. When you get a customer, this is how you process that. This is how you It's a visual display that's easy to understand. It doesn't take a lot of training to do. I find Peachtree, however, you have to have a lot of training to understand, like, where do I go to input an invoice? How do I make this adjustment? And it just takes a lot more training, and I find that it really frustrates most of my small business owners and my larger business owners. It's just frustrating to them that it's wasted time in my mind.
So what would be saying to the Peachtree people is you don't come work with it, and the reason people might want you to come work with it is not there's something wrong with them, but the software is just not really user friendly.
No, it's
and
not.
And you'd suggest that they make a change and get away from Peachtree to something else.
Mostly because you have to really take an assessment. And here's where, same thing with hiring a bookkeeper and trying to decide whether or not that's your best choice. You need to look at, how much time am I spending doing this task? And is that really the highest and best use of that time? So when I look at what it takes to process a transaction or to produce a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet in Peachtree, I can do it in half the time in QuickBooks. And
do you enjoy it more?
I love it.
Okay.
Without a doubt. So, I mean, that's really the bottom line for me is, is it really worth your time or the frustration?
Well, and that is true. When CRM systems were first coming out years ago, I bought one, and my sister and I, we went out of state, went to the school, we were learning all about it, got it back, and I had a woman helping me that I knew her mother real well, and she'd gotten laid off she was, if you can believe, she was a Hewlett-Packard troubleshooter for their software. Hated the software, so we finally realized there was nothing wrong with us. It was just, her bottom line was that software was just bad, so that you constantly had to always stay enrolled in their helpline to figure it out. So we switched, and we've been happy ever since we got rid of it and got a different one that was more user-friendly and didn't have all the problems in it.
And that's not to say that, you should just run off to your Staples or to your Office Max and, buy QuickBooks off the shelf, because there's bunches of different versions of them. You need to take the time and do some research and find out, what kind of business do you have? Do you have inventory? Well, there's a QuickBooks for that. Are you doing payroll? Well, there's a QuickBooks that handles your payroll. It's just, you need to really make sure you get the right one. Otherwise, again, you're going to be in the same boat as I feel that most Peachtree people are in. You're going to get frustrated because you can't get it to do what you want it to do.
So that's a big area you can help for people that aren't real familiar with it. And why would a small business owner be familiar with all those pieces of software? That's not part of what they do for a living, but it's part of what you do for a living.
Right, and they shouldn't waste their time looking for it. And really, again, is that your highest and best use, is to spend 4 hours researching QuickBooks?
Well, I never have felt like that. So, I would agree with you. You eventually get to where, partly because you don't enjoy, I don't enjoy doing things like that. Right. I don't enjoy researching software. Right. If I would, I'd probably change careers. But I buy my software. I'm like I in my car. I just don't care how it works. I just want it to work.
Right. And that's the way small business, and they don't care. They just want to know that it's working. But then I work with them to change that. It's like, okay, I got that you don't care, how much but let's look at it. Let's see if we can't see, that goal that you told me about, that dream, that where you want that business to go. Well, I'm here to help you with that. So, okay, I got that you really don't care about how it invoices and how quickly I can take care of that bill for you, but here's the final results. And that's what you need to focus on, is the end results.
Right. Yeah, I can appreciate that. Yeah, I don't care how it works. I just want it to do what I want it to do in the most efficient way, in the least time, and make it to where it's not too aggravating, for me, because there's the stuff I need to do, and then there's the stuff that, again, what I like to, like anybody else owns a business, there's what I like to do, and then there's this business part, and this business part isn't the part that's what I really like best to do.
Right.
And I'm sure everybody out there is the same, whether we can go back to somebody, the old stories of the person who bakes pies or cookies even. Well, they like to bake pies or cookies, but then you've got to go over here and do that, or whether, like you're helping other people.
Right, absolutely.
Ready.
Lisa from Queen Creek says she loves QuickBooks. They use it to run their whole carpet cleaning business, and it works as their database, prints checks, sends bills, and does their invoices, and she highly recommends it.
Absolutely. It'll do it all. It will absolutely do it all. And again, and if you have it tied into, again, it'll tie into your Neat Desk. So here's a little tip for all you people who are trying to figure it out. You can scan your business cards and dump that into the customer database part of your QuickBooks as well, so that you don't have to double entry that, and save you some time entering all that.
You know what I like about the Neat Desk Organizer? I like that it's not just like a normal scanner. You can drop, 25 or 50 business cards in there, a little stack of receipts, and if you have, say you have a stack of papers you need to get filed, and you can put it on automatic, and it automatically separates for you your business cards and puts them into your contacts, your receipts and puts them into your receipts, and your documents into your documents. So it's pretty cool, and it's very fast. That's the nice thing.
Right. One of the habits that I have, and that's part of the things that I teach, is like you have to set up these processes, and you have to be consistent with it. So when I have my wallet and I'm stuffing all my receipts in it, when it starts to get full and I'm having trouble buckling it, then I take it all out, drop it in my Neat Desk scanner, and even if I don't have time to process it right there and label everything, that's fine. But at least I have it in the scanner so that I'm not losing those receipts. Worst case scenario, I know where to go back to look for them. And then at the end of the month, when I'm doing my bank reconciliations, I just go ahead ahead and label everything while I'm at it, and it's all nice, neat little package. I do that with my clients too. At the end of the year, they got, after we scan everything in for them, so they have all their bank statements, they have all their receipts, they have their QuickBook reports, and it's all burned to a CD or put on the cloud, whichever they prefer. They take that to their accountant, and boom, they're done. And they don't have boxes and boxes of paperwork to lug around. Yeah, it's a great way to go.
I wish I were that organized regularly.
I can work with you on that.
Yes, you can.
I really need some personal work, truthfully.
I think everybody does. I mean, look at what you're doing here with the station. How on earth are you going to do all this? Our brain can, I think, only absorb and handle so much in a day. So you'd have to take time away from, again, what you do best and what you need to be doing and go over here. So that's,
I find myself lately, putting my papers real neatly together and then stashing them somewhere. Like, look, there's a spot under my copy machine that, whoa. And these are important. Okay, these are, all my important things that I didn't want to throw away or shred. So how good is that,
And it's just retraining that. I mean, it's not. I'm not going to ever walk in and say, "Oh, you're bad and wrong. Don't ever do that again."
I don't believe you.
Slap your hands. Okay, maybe once or twice, but I promise you'll like it. But what I do is, it's like I help retrain you, and like, okay, let's look at it, and let's put a same spot every time to handle that. Okay, now let's look at your schedule. When do you have some downtime, or when can you multitask? And like I was saying on the bus, that's when I handle my scheduling.
It's discipline, it's just total discipline.
It is, and then sticking with it. Or you know what, that didn't work. Okay, great, I got that system. Some people like color coding, like you mentioned your Post-it note guy. I can't stand color coding because then I have to go look at the color code chart to remember what goes where. I'm an alphabetized girl. Give me an alphabetized list and I can do that all day long. But it's like, if that system doesn't work for you, don't keep doing it because you're just going to get frustrated. Okay, go back and retweak it until you find it. Then it's not a chore so much anymore. It's just part of what you do, like your morning routine in the morning. You get up, you get dressed, you brush your teeth, you take a shower, you brush your hair. It's just what you do. It's not a chore. It's just what you do.
This would have been an incredible reality show if we would have taken a walk with video right through my office. It's not going to happen, by the way. But that would probably
could do a before and after.
That would borderline hoarders, and it's terrible.
Well, just knowing what's important, like you said, you don't want to throw away the important stuff.
Right, exactly. I don't want to throw the important things I may read in 3 years away.
That's right.
Because I may read those in 3 years and like them.
Yeah, I hang on to business articles that I find. It's like as I'm perusing things, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I may use that one day when I'm explaining stuff to people. I'm always looking for tools and great analogies, and I'll find something. But then what do I do with it? Well, it ends up in a file in a drawer, and I forgot about it, and I never do it. But, I mean, this way, if you have a system and you scan it and you put in those keywords, oh, you know what? I have that baker. Okay, there's an analogy that I can use with a baker, and I can search for it and find it really quick.
I found a recipe card, a really great one that I picked it up from a store. When they have the recipe cards by, like, the meat section. I picked up this recipe card years ago, and I was cleaning out boxes, and I found this card. And I thought, this is the greatest thing ever. But you know what? I can look it up online now. So I threw the card away, and I'll be darned if not a week later I really wanted that recipe. And I couldn't find it online. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not throwing anything away anymore.
Now, see, that's
I need 3 of your cards because 2 of them I guarantee I'll lose by the time I get home.
Absolutely. And that's another thing that I do is, like, I know that, you have to follow up. So, I can't, as a bookkeeper, I can sit back and wait. Well, you know what? My client didn't give me the information. I can't do anything. Well, it's in their nature not to do that. It's in there. If they were more proactive, they would have taken care of it already. So,
and it's not, I'm sure that your client, your clients, not that they didn't want to do it.
No, they want to.
They have to run their business and they have to do what they have to do.
Right.
So that is secondary because it's not, needing to be done right that minute.
So I can't tell you how many times I've text messaged them like, hey, guess what? Or left them voicemails or send them little reminder photos or something cutesy that they laugh about it, but they're like, yeah, I know, I got to get that to you. Like, yeah, okay, it's just your business.
Yeah.
Just your business.
No big
All
deal.
you can say. Yep. Oh, so what do you assess? When you get into somebody, kind of what are the things you look like? Like if you were to come to see me or to see Joe, what do you assess to see that we might need some things in the way of organizing?
The first thing I do is just find out, really try to get into your business and into your world.
Well, with Joe, you're going to look under his copy machine.
Absolutely.
Try not to look under things because, you know what, you never know what you're going to find.
And just look at, all the hiding places. Where do you stash stuff? And then why do you do that?
This is like a full disclosure thing. We got to really trust her. Huh? Bring her into
I
our
would-
personal
yes.
space and be like,
Yes.
all right, that cabinet right there, whatever you do, don't go in that one. Because that's the first place she's going.
Lock and key.
That's right.
Probably true.
Just hide your chocolates.
You're
from
like
me.
she's like an attorney or a doctor with this non-disclosure thing going on. Attorney, what is this? Organizer client privilege.
I do have a non-disclosure that
That's
I give
good.
to all my
That's good.
clients, and their
Excellent.
stuff is
That's
absolutely
important.
It is,
It
and,
is,
and
has to
I'm
be.
glad you mentioned that, because one of the things when I get questioned is like, I'm looking for a bookkeeper. What kind of questions? What kind of things do I need to look for? Well, number one, integrity. Number one.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down. You got to have integrity. Ask them why they're doing it.
Well, the good thing is you did come highly recommended here, but I can see why. Even myself, I'm thinking, boy, you're going to have somebody scan and send you their credit card and their statements and their cash receipts. Cash receipts, who cares about? But everything else, you're going to have all the card information. So yes, it is really important.
Even just being that you may live kind of in our backyard where we do business, just to have people know that the beautiful studio you're in here is because this is where everyone goes, and it better look neat, or people are going to leave and go
Right.
Joe's a slob. So going into our personal space, that's that spreads quick when people have loose lips. And I would hate to, your house is either lived in or you've got 3 or 4 housekeepers that keep it perfect, and mine is lived in.
Mine is definitely lived in too. And I mean, it's like I just have to keep reminding myself. And I have run into a couple of situations where I was like, oh, what am I getting myself into?
Don't get me wrong; it's not horrible by any means, but I've got 4 dogs. I'm blaming everything on them.
Well, and kids. I mean,
Everything.
If you have a lot of people in there, sure, it's going to make a difference. I don't think that's really what you're really concerned about. So, so what kinds of things? Like I said, say you're going to come to me or you're going to come to Joe. What kinds of things might me or Joe or anybody need in the way of organizing?
Well, I mean, the first thing is to look at what you're doing already. Like, how are you handling your invoices? How are you handling your bills? What's your biggest complaint from your customers? And then let's look
Or
at...
to yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Like
Or
Joe's
your
been making
staff.
complaints about himself.
Yeah, right.
Knowing, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do this.
And it's
but-
funny, I know these things need to be done. Like
But
right now,
how?
by my neat organizer, I've got a stack about that big, no joke, of papers that I have been going, this needs to go into my neat organizer.
Yeah.
But I just haven't stuck them in the slot and done it. What's up with that?
And then I would kind of question you on that, and to kind of take it to a little bit psychology too. It's like, okay, why don't you do that? Why don't you?
Wow, that's
It
deep.
takes,
Very
what,
deep.
Takes 2 seconds to put it in there and push the button. Why don't you do that?
Maybe out of fear.
Okay, and then that's where I would go. I mean,
I really don't know.
I don't want to disclose, I don't want to make Joe uncomfortable or anything, but it's like, why don't you do that? There's some reason, there's something. We don't just not do it because we don't want to. I mean, there's something that's stopping us. And if it is like, I'm legitimately too busy, okay, great, I got that. So where can we look to make that time? So it's really the first thing that I do in that first assessment when I'm sitting down with them is just really getting to know them and how you process your business and what are the biggest pitfalls that you have. And then setting a list. It's like we start listing them out. Okay, now you got a list of 10 things or 50 things here. What's the most important one to you? And then you would be shocked at how quickly those things get knocked out. And then what ends up happening, this is the coolest part of my job, is then Joe gets excited about taking care of that sacrifice.
I really do. Every time I do it, with the neat thing, I get excited.
Yeah.
I have found a flaw in this neat organizer system. My
Which is?
business cards. I have a lot of people come through the studio and they give me cards. Well, it's nice to scan them in, but how do you remember who they are if there's no picture on them? Do you actually put a side note like, this was the guy that came in with the big hat? And how do you know what I mean?
That's
I
a very
actually
good question,
I have
yes.
a solution to that.
Oh, my.
I do. Do you have a smartphone?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I take a picture, person, and take a picture of their card side by side. And then when you upload that to your computer, you have the picture of the person and their business card. Because I'm like you. I'm a very
She's
visual
amazing.
person.
She's amazing.
But you're always taking pictures of people
I take a
here.
ton of pictures. I
You
love to
just
take pictures.
need to have them, they hold their cards, they're holding their card here and you take their picture?
Either way. I mean, you can do it either way. I can take a picture of you and then take a picture of your card. But at least I know those two are tied together.
That's a good idea. Never even thought of that.
Yeah, because you're already doing it. You just never put it
I'm
together.
going to start doing that.
There you go.
Hold your card up, please.
Jeez.
Right on.
But I mean, it's just coming up with those solutions and having somebody to help you think outside the box. And 9 times out of 10, you know the answer. It's just you're too busy to stop and think about it.
Yeah, you're preoccupied. You got, there's the brain can only hold so much, and there's only so many hours in the day, and so that's why it's nice to bring in people who don't have to think about it. For them, they already know all about it.
Yep.
Because, like, for Joe, coming up with that solution, he never has done it. But you do it so you have an immediate answer. But Joe might have laid awake nights thinking about that and taken away from his other productivity and buying new equipment or
I'm
whatever.
already bothered by it because now I'm figuring, well, how will that still work when I put it in my Need organizer?
You can import it. Well, actually, I take that back. You'd have to export it into a file simultaneously. So do you use Outlook?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you know that you can export your contacts out of Neat into Outlook. Yes.
I didn't know that.
You do now. So, wow, you're getting lots of stuff. And then, in Outlook, you can import a picture at the same time.
Right.
And so you just merge the two together.
Wow. I really believe you do those
And
things.
so then whenever you have... And
She
so,
sounds very convincing,
amazing.
doesn't she?
Right.
Yes.
And then so with there's so many apps with smartphones now that you can scan take a picture of business cards. That's another thing I do on the bus is I have my stack of business cards and I take my pictures and put all the information in so that it's all on my phone. But then they also will sync up with your other, whether you're using Google as your main contact database. A lot of people are. Gmail is their main contact because it follows them. Or it will sync up to your Outlook, or there's several of them that do that. So it's just, again, sitting down, figuring out what your goal is. And then if I don't have a solution, by all means, I'm not the be-all, end-all of knowledge when it comes to coming organized, but I
would say
looking
you've
for
got
it.
quite a good start on solutions.
Wow,
Wouldn't you say
I would
that?
say she's
Enough
one of
to
the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, enough to get people going to... Maybe around home plate a couple times anyway, right?
Yeah,
Because
right.
At least get you started.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is really fantastic.
And it's all because that's what I love to do. And I love doing it because I love watching those businesses succeed. And that's the best part for me. If I knew that me getting your business cards organized meant that you can go out there and reach more people and make your business grow that much more, that's how I sleep at night.
That's a great motivating. This is money and motivation. So that is perfect. We know what motivates
And
you.
she's a nice person, too.
Yes, and very non-judgmental.
What a bonus.
And just and just such a great attitude. So nobody really needs to feel self-conscious when you go in.
No.
I mean, don't you get that feeling? Just
Oh,
very
yeah.
accepting and helpful with everybody.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, if they were organized, they wouldn't need me. What fun would that be?
That is so true.
So,
If they were organized, they wouldn't need you.
yep.
So pretty much everybody needs you. I mean, really. 95% of the people are not really organized. Are they?
I had a lady in one of my groups that said, you know what, I don't really think I need you, but come out and check me out anyway. I was like, okay. And she did. She had a nice little folder, and she's like, here's all the bills that I pay, and here's when I pay them, and she was like, yeah, you don't need me, but feel free to check in with me another time.
Those kind of people almost scare me.
My mom's kind of like
They're
that.
so organized.
And going back to different styles, my mom can do a million things at once, and you look at her desk and you can't find a thing.
Maybe you inherited some of the being able to do a lot. Oh, but you say she can do a million things, but her desk is
Her desk
not
is a
organized.
total
Oh.
wreck. Total wreck.
But can she find things, or does she?
But some digging and some, calling my dad in to help for
She
support.
might be just messing with you.
Maybe so. But, that's just because she's a busy mind and she stays busy. But, I mean, even though I've gone to her time and time again, Mom, I can fix that for you. No, that's the way she likes it. And you know what? I respect that. That's the fact that her desk is a wreck. Everything that she needs is right there. And she can glance and go, oh, yeah, I still need to take care of that. Some people like it on board. Some people like it on, to-do list. However it works for her. That works for her. And I don't judge her for it. Okay, maybe a little bit. She's my mom. But that's what works for her. And I wouldn't change her for it.
Well, if people can't stay in their comfort zone, they're not going to do it anyway.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's a process, so maybe they can't go from here to where you are, but maybe they can go here to the next step. And then once they're there, they I can go to the next step.
Right. And that's why when we were talking about with Joe, we make that list. And it's like, okay, what's the most important? What's the thing that bugs you the most? Where does it hurt the most? And let's tackle that. And then, what's the next thing? And let's tackle that. And then you start building up that motivation. It's like, oh, it's not so bad. I can do this too. And then it just starts to take a life of its own. And that's why I say in a year, my goal is in a year, you don't need me because you're motivated and you've got a system in place and you're taking care of it on your own.
You're making people super organizers.
I hope so.
You should give them a cape after the 1 year.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good
Right?
idea.
Yes.
That's a great promotional item.
Nice.
That would be. Well, and especially because there's so many people who need your services, you really couldn't probably work with all the people who need your services and keep them as permanent clients. So it's better if you work with them and then they go on, and they may check back, I'm sure, a few years later, say, okay, here's where I am now. Now what can I do to become a little more efficient?
Right, because as your business grow, the dynamics change. And so, I mean, you started off with just yourself and you were doing it all. Okay, that's one thing. But then as your business grows, now you have 10 employees. How do you juggle that volume of paperwork? And what kind of systems do you need to put in place for that? So, my philosophy is it's always good just to check in and go, this, like the lady who called me over and says, this is what I'm doing. What do you think? It never hurts to ask people for advice. I find so many people are afraid to get advice. Like, it doesn't hurt. Get advice. Worst case scenario, you don't like it, whatever, move on. But you could learn something really great from them. So it never hurts to say, hey, do you have a minute? Come out here and check it out. Okay, you know what? You're running great. You absolutely don't need me. It works out great for me because you're happy, and you're going to refer me to the next person who's like, oh, you know what? She totally turned my business and my personal life around and got me organized. And then you also have the peace of mind to know that I got this covered. I can handle this.
I think that's fantastic, especially the confidence level. Not so much peace of mind, but even the confidence to know if, like with Joel, if I go to my doing with all these cards and I'm going to lose track of people and I'm going to see Joe and call him, Tim or something, and now there's a solution to that. So, you could just see him say, oh, that would be great, because that would be a terrible thing to do that. So, at any rate, I can see that we are out of time. This was really fun, and I learned a lot. I don't, from listening to what you guys were saying this time, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who also did. My business is different than yours, so it was great to hear that. At any rate, thank you for joining us this evening. You have been with Nancy Fleming for Money and Motivation, and Joe. And let's give out your contact information again, your name, your phone number, and the website people can visit to learn more about you and contact you that way also.
Okay, the best way to reach me is I'm going to give you the secret bat line to me directly.
So pay attention, guys.
Yep. It's 318-715-3221. Again, that's 318-715-3221. It is a Louisiana number. I love it, so I'm not changing it. I keep my Southern heritage with me everywhere I go. Or you can email me at personalconsultants@q.com. Again, that's personalconsultants with an S at q.com. And I don't keep a website because I like to keep things personal, and so those are the two ways that I do business.
Outstanding. So you don't have to have a website to be successful. So
Absolutely
there you go
not.
for those who are fighting having a website.
Wow.
Don't have to do that. Well, very good. And thank you. And we'll see you next Tuesday, the same time, same place.
Thank you.
Are you experiencing computer problems? Is your computer running slow, bogged down with viruses and spyware? You need a reliable and knowledgeable, trustworthy computer service company. Contact Computers Network